to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, welcome to the show.
Pick yourself up off the floor.
Maybe.
It's time to
just
go.
hold on. Hang in there.
All right.
Hang on to the ledge. I don't know what's going on.
Or celebrate.
This is just a crazy week. I think the predominant assumption in the fantasy community is that we will spend the entirety of the show on the pooped, their big boy pants segment. But you know what I say? I say this. Flush it away.
Flush it down.
Flush those thoughts away. No, we will get into all of the disappointing performances.
We now have a toilet sound effect.
I just added it this morning.
Wow.
Look, after a week like that, here's my whole take on the week. I tweeted something last night. I said basically you won fantasy football by having Lev Bell or the Atlanta Falcons defense or some random allotment of players that just worked out. But here's the honest truth about the week. Because many of you won, many of you may not have won if you went up against those opponents, or if some of the plethora of great fantasy options this week disappointed you, like Mike Evans or Drew Brees or Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, or the list will go on, including Mr. Moncrief. But here's the honest truth. You cannot predict epic failure in these guys, but you can assemble a roster that affords you some margin to survive. And the hope is that if you had a struggling player, your opponent had a struggling player.
I saw
you played Big Ben even if you had Breeze.
Yeah, I saw someone sent me a message and said this is the worst playoff matchup they've ever seen. And it was every single player in our Pooped in the Big Boy Pants segment coming up was on both teams. And this was a playoff, and the rosters were loaded, man. I mean, these were good teams full of great players, and the final score is like 40-41.
In our Dynasty League, Jason is in a matchup on one side of the bracket in which it's like 130 to 129.
Yeah, no, it's 130, and so people can root for this. I need Tom Brady to not score 10 points tonight.
Okay.
Or I'm going to lose with 130 points.
The other side of the bracket, both teams are in the 40s.
Yeah.
So that just to illustrate the point you're making.
Ridiculous. Thanks, Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah. Yeah. So
he's good.
Hopefully your depth changes helped. Your last minute changes helped. I know a lot of people that did insure Julio with Taylor Gabriel survived and thrived. And but yeah, I mean, even the David Johnsons of the world, the Jordan Reeds of the world, did not carry you this week.
Well, to be fair, David Johnson still had a solid game. I mean, he was over 100 yards from scrimmage again.
Agreed.
And Jordan Reed was, on the field for like 10 snaps.
Everything this week is measured in percentages of a Le'Veon Bell.
Wow.
Le'Veon Bell is now a full mathematical measurement form.
If Le'Veon Bell is 100%,
right,
then we are going to use some small numbers for everyone else.
Yeah, the figures are going to be small. So, studs and duds on the show today. We've got Rising Stars. We're going to get you ready for Week 15. Obviously, you got the Monday night game tonight. That's going to impact a ton of fantasy outcomes. I mean, you got Brady and you have Edelman and
Kenneth Dixon and Terrence West.
The new hotness, Malcolm Mitchell, that everyone wanted to play.
Yep. Yeah. So a lot of fantasy implications decided tonight. But if you are looking ahead now, we'll also get you ready for that with injury reports, everything you need to know. It's going to be, look, you're on your way to a Foot Clan title. That's the goal here. We're going to try to get you as ready as we can. So we've got Rising Stars. We've got guys to pay attention to for next week. Quick question of the day from Twitter at JMR Tennis.
Jimmer
Tennis writes in, how would you gently introduce new league rules and scoring changes for next season? What method would you take?
This is a very good, well-timed question, because part of how you introduce new rules is when. And now is a very good time to do that. Every player is still kind of paying attention to what's going on. It's not the off season yet, but you need to do it before the next year. You can't do it mid-year. So step one, you've already got out of the way, which is do it now. And I would always put it to a vote. Hopefully you have some communication channel, Facebook messaging group, or a Slack channel, or some kind of, if you guys use the forums on whatever website that hosts your fantasy league, bring up this rule change. Say why you want to do it. Like, hey, let's get rid of kickers. That would be my highest recommendation.
I will say this though: don't be reactionary about the rule change. If it's something that is directly affecting this week's performance, it will seem like sour grapes if you go out and try to introduce a rule change. If that's the case for what you're trying to adjust, I do a little postseason write-up and summarize how all the teams did, and then introduce a few ideas and take a vote early so that people can prepare their draft based on the new rule changes. That's the problem. You introduce it late in the season or during the season, people didn't draft based on those scoring changes.
Right.
So you want to give people a chance to you don't introduce a keeper league in week 9 because people didn't draft and plan around a keeper league. You want a keeper league, decide it, in the offseason. Prepare people for it. And if it's unanimous, it doesn't matter when you do it because everybody's on board.
Sometimes you need to be gentle like a baseball bat, though. Just saying.
As a commissioner?
Well, as a bringing up a rule change.
You got to fight.
Yeah, if there's some ridiculousness in there.
Yeah.
All right.
Just saying. It's not always gentle.
No one's allowed to have Le'Veon Bell. That's the
new rule.
Rule.
If the game's in the snow, I get a bonus 13 points.
The snow bonus. Yeah, that's very common. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at the FF Ballers. You can follow me at Andy Holloway, follow Jason at JasonFFL, and follow the unverified one at FF Hitman. You can check us out on YouTube as well. We are a year-round fantasy football podcast. We are debuting some interesting things on YouTube during the offseason as well. We have our regular shows, but we'll do some show after the shows and have some fun on there.
Ooh, it's back.
It'll be back. And check out the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. You can submit questions to the show. Check out everything we have to offer. Our awesome group of writers submitting things like, that weather article was so valuable this week.
Jason's dabbing.
Jason just dabbed sneeze.
I had to sneeze, got to dab. You got to do what you got to do.
Well, not a lot of dabbing done by some of the studs this week, so we're going to get into that. But first, guys, let's do the rewind.
Weekly Rewind.
In things you didn't want to see news, Melvin Gordon didn't have the decency to go down late in the game.
Ugh.
Oof, no good.
Carted off the field with the leg and a hip injury, did not return. Source said he is okay.
Yeah, okay.
He's getting an MRI.
Him being okay doesn't really help your fantasy team.
Well, and him being okay doesn't mean that he's healthy. You could just say, hey, Gordon, how you doing? I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too early to know. He's getting an MRI today, so we will have word as to how severe the hip injury is.
Here's what you don't do. You don't rush back your stalwart running back.
Yeah, if you're out of the
you're out of the playoffs.
I agree with that, which means to me that if he's back this week, I have no concerns in playing him. I would throw him right in there.
That's a good take. So if they do play him, you're not worried about him being iffy because why would they play him iffy?
Exactly.
Interesting.
If they play him, then he really is good to go, and it shouldn't be a case where he's going to re-aggravate.
Kenneth Farrow.
Yes, if you got it.
Is
you got
the waiver wire
anything left in the old fab tank?
Well, would you sign him or
yes,
Bilal Powell?
Oh,
if you knew Forte was out, because Forte left the game with a knee injury.
That would be my man. Bilal.
Jason is like,
oh, we'll talk about him in a minute. That's not even a question.
But for the people in the Chargers situation, it's Kenneth Farrow. He would be the guy to pick up, and this is why we do talk about saving at least a couple bucks of the fab, because right around the playoffs, weird things happen. And let's say maybe you saved $1 and your opponent next week, the Melvin Gordon owner, does not have any dollars. You're out of luck there, my friend, because you're going to get blocked.
Couple of concussion reports. CJ Fiedorowicz left with a possible concussion, and Shane Vereen.
He's back. He's back out.
He's back out, yeah.
Oh,
Shane Vereen
man.
suffered a concussion. That meant a little bit more passing down work for Rashad Jennings and Paul Perkins. So monitor those situations. Ryan Tannehill is likely done for the year with an ACL injury, despite defeating my Cardinals.
Man,
Now,
and
now
he
if you're the Dolphins, you're an 8-win.
I gotta
team.
be honest, that stunk for Cardinal fans yesterday. Losing that game. I'm going. My son turns 8 years old tomorrow, and I'm taking him to the Cardinal game on Sunday. And I really wanted that game to matter.
Chandler,
it does matter.
Catanzaro.
It matters for fantasy players.
Yeah.
Is the worst.
Is that's your takeaway?
That's my takeaway. But Matt Moore now will be thrust in to the lineup.
He's capable, and their schedule for real life playoffs type of a situation, it could be worse.
I will
just
say this:
saying.
I can't imagine wanting to rely on Matt Moore. He's got a lot going on right now. He's having a baby today. Did you guys know this?
Congratulations!
His wife is being induced today, so this is a big day for Matt Moore. He's becoming a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Well, here's just because I want to follow up on that. Next week they play the Jets, a team that is
Phoning it in.
they quit.
They won.
Yeah, but still, again they beat.
Who'd they play?
They beat the 49ers.
I know.
It was quit versus quit. Someone had to win. And then
They
the
should
next
not have allowed that.
The next week they play Buffalo. Maybe they have a head coach, and then they play the Patriots.
Hamstring. Donte Moncrief left the game with a hamstring injury.
Not before he dropped a couple passes.
One of the worst poopers of the week. Matthew Stafford, dislocation, torn ligaments in the middle finger, played with a glove the final 3 quarters, and will have to play with a glove the rest of the year. Still pulled out the victory with his legs.
Yeah, ran in the game-winning touchdown, and we'll have to see how he does in practice this week. I think he will be out on the field rest of the season, and probably someone you can still play even through the injury.
Really?
I think depending on the matchup, I think Matthew Stafford can fight through it, but we'll have to see how he does in practice.
I believe it's his middle finger
It is
on his throwing hand.
correct.
Yeah, no thanks.
No thanks.
No, I'm just saying. We've seen
about
quarterbacks with dislocated fingers, and it just does not end up well.
I will say this to support your issue, and it's not a guarantee that these are the causes. When Carson Palmer
That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
hurt his finger last season, it certainly seemed to affect him. Derek Carr has had a couple of bad games. I don't say that that's because of that pinky,
Well,
but
one.
since that pinky,
Since the pinky.
yes,
Yeah.
was not a good game.
What about that surprise inactive for Theo Riddick we didn't expect?
Just his injury was a little worse than we thought.
Yeah.
I mean, he should be back next week.
I don't want to have to watch Dwayne Washington play football anymore in his stead. I mean, that's
Well, it's either Dwayne Washington or Joik Bell. Pick your poison.
Zach Zinner.
Give me Zach.
Zach Zenner was, I think he had a concussion
He
scare
did
as well.
He did. He left.
Surprisingly high amount of positive feedback over our Val Kilmer Mark Twain discussion. I know that's not news. I'm about to get into the stud muffins, but I've seen a ridiculous amount of positive. Like Val Kilmer apparently needs to be a slightly larger focus on the show.
Hey, more Val.
I love
I'm
Val
fine with
Kilmer.
that.
He had that like run of movies where he was everything,
Yeah.
and then poof.
And then poof, he ends up
Batman.
in MacGruber.
Yeah, that's funny. Last piece of newsworthy information: Alshon Jeffery is returning from his suspension. He's only owned right now in 63% of leagues, so he is available on a lot of waivers. Granted, he's got Matt Barkley throwing him the ball right now.
It doesn't matter. I'd pick him up.
Yep.
This week's Fantasy Stud Muffins.
We'll start with the good. And that was Mr. Matt Ryan. 3 touchdowns, carving them up.
Yeah.
Didn't need Julio.
I doubted you, Matt Ryan, and you proved
You
me wrong.
doubted him?
I did.
I
A lot
did
of
as well.
people. I did not.
I think as soon as Julio was ruled out, a lot of people looked
no Julio,
elsewhere.
no Sanu.
No, I was asked that a lot, and I actually took the other approach. I basically just said he'll make his hay through the running backs.
Yeah,
which he kind of did, kind of didn't.
When I was explaining it, I said, I mean, of any year, this year is far more different for Matt Ryan, that he's not force feeding one target. But the couple years back when Julio Jones, or Matt Ryan was a fantasy force, Julio Jones goes out for the year with his foot. Matt Ryan just fell apart.
San Francisco next week for the Falcons. Then Carolina, New Orleans. I mean, that looks great regardless of Julio Jones.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Tannehill is in this segment.
Aaron Rodgers, it should have been in the news that, he left hobbled. He has a calf situation. It's not expected to be serious, but
I found it
it's a situation
interesting
to pay attention to.
I found it interesting that Brett Hundley was throwing the ball as much as he was at that point in the game. I found that could have been indicative of giving him reps and running plays in preparation of a possible start.
JIC.
But they won the game. They're fighting for the playoffs. I can't imagine Rodgers
not playing.
But you're right. It's worth bringing up, but he had 3 touchdowns and carved him up in 3 quarters, basically. Yesterday, a couple of times, Jason was sitting there watching the games with me, and he's telling me, do you know who the top 5 quarterbacks in fantasy are right now? It was like Sam Bradford, Trevor Siemian, Ryan Tannehill. It
was gross. I told you at one point because I was really worried. My start of the week was Matthew Stafford, and my stream of the week was
Trevor Siemian.
And I'm like, man, these guys are sucking. I feel so bad. And then I'd look them up. I'm like, oh, they're the number 5 and number 7 quarterback. The whole league is sucking.
I wanted to say this at the beginning. And I hope you understand this out there. We all have our teams that we're rooting for here. I can tell you there is nothing like the pressure, and it's good, right? But the pressure that I feel in delivering for you guys as listeners of the show. During the playoffs, when Sammy Watkins caught the touchdown, that was the single most jubilant moment of yesterday for me. Because I hung so much on him having a good game, and he didn't blow up. But he had an all right game. But for me, if you're doubting out there that we care about your teams, do not doubt it. You should have seen the trepidation. Jason was just saying he felt bad about his starts because he's sitting there, and we're all doing the same thing. We're all going, we're rooting for these guys that we've planted a flag on, and when one goes wrong, Russell Wilson's terrible game, I'll take the lumps, and I'll weep with you because you didn't see that coming.
Yeah, we want 10,000 #FootClan titles out there.
10 million.
Let's start with 10,000.
Start with 10,000.
Billion. You guys are
But
weak.
look, Ryan Tannehill was one of the best quarterbacks of the week with 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, number 3 on the week.
How many people started Ryan Tannehill against the Cardinals?
I imagine it's 2 people.
All right, the running backs, stud muffins.
There's its own tier here.
There's Lev Bell, 38 for
38 carries, and that is correct.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it.
He had almost 300 all-purpose yards.
That's real?
As a running back.
38 carries.
And because he wasn't even – it's not like he was just getting smashed every carry. I mean, he would have a light jaunt and then maybe run out of bounds.
He actually walked into the end zone once.
Yeah, he did.
38 for 236 and 4 for 62 through the air. Maybe one of those rule changes isn't to take him out, but he counts as 2 running back spots.
There you go.
With that many carries.
It's like inventory in an RPG.
What's crazy is that, I believe he even finished where the second highest fantasy producer, if you doubled his score.
Are you all right there?
Not really. If you doubled his score, then you get Le'Veon Bell. So if you had Le'Veon Bell, you basically won.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a heck of a game for him, and the game stayed close enough to where they didn't need to pull him. The game just was teetering on that line. Bilal Powell had a monster game after Forte went down. 29 carries for 145 and 2. And on the other side, talk about efficiency. Carlos Hyde.
Man alive. He looked
17 for 193. And just in case you want the math on that, that's a solid 11.3 a carry.
That's a first down every time you touch the ball.
Did we mention the Matt Forte injury?
I feel like yes, I did. I did mention the Matt Forte injury.
Just barely.
He went down with a knee injury. And
we'll
did
talk
not
about
return.
it even more in just a couple minutes.
Because he heard a crackle and popping, and he was in his knee.
Yeah, he's going to be having an MRI today.
I think he'll miss some time. He was 1 snap away from Rice Krispies.
Okay.
Yes,
that's not good. That's not good.
I got you. I was with you on that.
All right.
Yeah, Carlos Hyde. Every time we looked up, we were watching these games together, and when we looked over to the Niners game, it was just Carlos Hyde was running free.
It seemed like every play he had about 11 yards, and he did.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for I don't know, about 2 months. I think he is an absolute RB1. Next week he gets Atlanta. their defense is looking better and better. But I'm starting Carlos Hyde against any matchup right now.
Jeremy Hill had a good game against Cleveland, 25 for 111 and 1.
Well, he did.
This is
Cleveland.
his 2 best games of the year. Here's a bunch of players that did not let you down. Shady.
Oof.
Got it taken care of through the passing game and scoring at the end. Lamar Miller.
There's my boy.
Big game. Not a lot of confidence in the injury
And
concerns, and
Alfred
yet had a
Blue.
great game.
Blue was running a ton. I felt like every time I looked up, it was Blue, and I'm like, oh, crap.
Tevin Coleman, Latavius Murray, Ty Montgomery, Todd Gurley got it done. So,
Yeah,
Robert Kelly. Yeah. Doug Martin.
A lot of good guys. I mean, for running backs were not the position that let you down. Your stalwart running backs, for the most part, did their job.
Yeah, they did enough.
Is there anyone in that list who you think, this won't continue?
Ty
next
Montgomery.
week? Okay.
Yeah, Ty Montgomery.
So you're not all back in on Monty.
Well, I mean, I think he'll be all right, but I'm not. He had the least amount of carries of this group.
Yeah, I believe C. Michael had 10 carries.
So
Starks had
if they
a
would
couple.
make Ty Montgomery just their lead back,
Yeah.
because he looks great as a running back. When they hand him the ball up the middle, out to the side, he looks great.
I think he kind of is, but they just don't want the workload.
Yeah.
I don't know. Before we move on to the wide receiver, Stud Muffins, I do want to thank today's sponsor. You know him, Harry's. Look, guys can be very hard to shop for, but Harry's is the perfect gift. I mean, sometimes it can feel impossible to find the right thing, but we love Harry's. Harry's is great, and I have 3 of them in the office right here that they sent us. They have these gift packs, and they look great. Like, it's a great thing to receive for Christmas. What do I love about Harry's? I love everything about Harry's. The cost, it's low. The quality, it's high. Absolutely love it. Close shave, comfortable shave. They're great. Listen to this. They were started, Harry's, the company, by 2 best friends, Jeff and Andy, who were fed up with being overcharged for razors, so they started their own razor company to give people what they deserve, a great shave at a fair price. That's exactly what you get. And as a special offer for fans of this show, we've partnered with Harry's to give you $5 off your order when you enter the code footballers at checkout. Sound pretty good?
Sounds good to me.
Sound pretty good. Ground shipping for the holiday ends on December 16th, so act now. Go to harrys.com right now and get a holiday shave set. Don't forget to enter the code footballers at checkout for $5 off. That's harrys.com, code footballers.
And we also need to make sure that you are well aware for this holiday season of SeatGeek, the best and only place to buy all your tickets for any kind of event, especially sporting events. I mean, Andy just talked about he's taking his son Caleb for his birthday to the Cardinals versus the Saints game coming up. Where do you think he got the tickets? SeatGeek. I just got my wife some Faith Hill tickets. I got them on SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the only place you need because they take in tickets from hundreds of different sites, so you know you're getting a great price. And the convenience and ease of their app is still mind-blowing. Every time I use it, you can pick your exact seat. They will show you where it is. You can zoom in with your little pinching fingers, and it is a delight to just go, those are the tickets I want. They're color-coded. You know it works well. And here's the best part. You can get $20 back in your pocket after you make your first purchase with SeatGeek. So here's what you do. Download the free SeatGeek app. Go to the settings tab and click the add a promo code and enter our promo code footballers. SeatGeek will send you $20 after you've made your first ticket purchase. Download the free SeatGeek app and enter promo code footballers to get yourself some great tickets or get them as a gift. You will not be disappointed.
You've got to use those little pinching fingers.
Pinch, zoom.
You've got to use
pinch.
Is that how it sounds? Pinch, zoom.
Yep, that's what I say when I do it.
So, Mike and I, we're going to talk wide receivers. Mike and I are in a listener league playoff
We are
battle
going
right now.
Mano y mano.
What do I need? I need the Baltimore defense to not score, 7 or something?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
5 or 6?
5, 6, 7.
What do you think, Jason? You going to handicap this one for us?
You need the Baltimore defense to not score 6. This is the Patriots. I'm going to say 55% chance they do not.
So you're in my favor?
I am in your favor, but
the
just
score is
barely.
69.5 to 76.4.
We're good.
That is not. Yeah, I had a lousy week.
One touchdown from the Ravens and all.
Thankfully,
I'll
I'm
be
on
done.
the bye, so I'll see one of you guys later.
Yeah, maybe next week. So wide receivers that delivered, man, T.Y. Hilton looks good right now. And you know what else? Dorsett looks so bad.
He is so bad right now. And I want to bring this up because remember how bad Davante Adams was last year with the Hall of Fame quarterback throwing him the ball, and he dropped it all the time.
You heard it here first. MVP 2017.
Not MVP.
Philip Dorsett.
No.
But
I
because
agree.
I have this temptation when I watch Philip Dorsett drop these passes. I want to just write him off.
Bury him.
Cut him out
You should.
forever. Yeah, you should for this year.
No,
He
you
is
should for
not
next
gonna
year,
get done.
too.
And maybe you're right, but I'm gonna stay open to him next year.
The only way that next year matters to me is if Moncrief or Hilton are injured. I don't see why you would bank on Dorsett coming back into the fold as a wide receiver 3.
Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson are not injured.
Yeah, they're the 1 and 2.
That's what I'm saying. And
They're the
Davante
1 and 2?
Adams
Well, they were hurt. Cobb was out
What?
for a game or so.
for a couple games.
All right. Well,
All right, no,
Just a
it's
thought.
fair enough. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a thought.
Just saying, don't bury him yet.
He's just looked really bad.
He
and
has
you
looked
somehow turned that
terrible.
into a point in his favor for next year.
no. He stinks. I'm just saying.
T.Y. Hilton, 9 for 115 and 1 touchdown. Emmanuel Sanders, Mike's start of the week, delivering the goods. Tyreek Hill, we talked about him. 6 for 66 and a touchdown. Don't forget about him.
Tyreek the Freak.
Jordy Nelson, monster game again,
Just
2
gets it done,
touchdowns. J.J. Nelson, his brother. No,
JJ, you realize that JJ Nelson is on this list
from 1 carry.
with
2 touches.
2 touches.
Yeah.
Both
So-
touchdowns.
So fantasy football people, like bad beats are out there.
Yeah.
There you go. JJ Nelson, one of the top scoring wide receivers of the week. 2 touches.
Yeah.
a 56-yard touchdown run and an 8-yard reception.
Three
for a touchdown.
3 touches for D-Jax, but 102 and a touchdown. And Davante Adams, again, efficiency, 4 for 104 and a touchdown.
What about Kenny Stills? Are you buying into
No,
Stills at all?
no, stay
No, especially
far,
not,
far away.
Especially not without Ryan Tannehill now.
Yep, very fair.
Other guys that did not let you down, Odell Beckham Jr., finding that slant and go, and he means go. 4 for 94 and a touchdown. Demaryius Thomas, 10 for 126.
That's nice.
Him and Sanders both delivered for you. I had them back-to-back in my rankings, too.
I think I did as well. I mean, it was the Titans secondary. You can beat them.
What do you think about the Sammy Watkins game? They have Cleveland next week. Watkins was 4 for 54 and a touchdown.
I like it. I mean, he's healthy. He's looking better. He's getting snaps, and that was for him to even finish 4 for 54 and 1 in those conditions. I mean, if you look at Big Ben. I mean,
Thank goodness.
he was throwing interceptions just all over the place. I mean, there was wacky stuff going on in that game.
And Dontrelle Inman, I think, is worth pointing out as well. He had another good game, 6 for 71 and 1. That's 3 weeks in a row with a touchdown for him. And if you go back, to week 8 or so, he's pretty much catching 5 balls a game on
Who do they got
average.
next?
Coming up against Oakland, followed by Cleveland to finish out the playoffs.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I think if you did not have the Falcons defense and you did not have Lev Bell, one of the guys that won you this week was Tyler Eifert.
Yep.
Big performance from Tyler Eifert.
My start of the week. I'm just saying, because a lot of people, and what's funny, no. I said, look, I know this guy's probably obvious, but there's going to be people who have Tyler Eifert and someone else. And Mike, you played against one of them, and you were so happy, right?
Yeah, he had Zeus on the bench, and after Thursday, I thought, what a sucker. With
Yeah.
Zeus over 100 yards.
And I told you, I was like, well, I think I would still rather play Eifert.
Yeah.
And he did pretty good.
All right. Other efficiencies at tight end. Zach Ertz had a great game, 10 for 112.
He is balling out, man.
It made sense. This week it made sense. Green Beckham was going to be out. Matthews' first game back from
I'm just
injury.
saying it's-
So this
But
coming
it's made
week,
sense every week.
Every week, Zach Ertz is on fire right now. He's got a great rapport going with Carson Wentz. Now this coming week, though, he goes up against Baltimore, who's pretty much best against tight ends.
Oh.
So you've got good, hot, on fire tight end against a great defense against them.
At tight end, you don't know. I mean, it's hard to have other great options.
Right.
If you're already locked into Zach Ertz, we'll talk about our matchups and tight ends to start this week, and maybe there's an option on your waiver wire that is better than Zach Ertz,
I doubt it.
but it's hard to
I
imagine.
mean, 4 of 6 of the last weeks for Zach Ertz.
And what's bad? I
double
mean,
digits.
If he plays Baltimore and catches half as many passes, you're probably still pretty happy with Zach Ertz.
Yeah, fair.
Kyle Rudolph, delivered. Charles Clay had a good game.
Finally got a touchdown.
Yeah. And he made a big deal out of it. Travis Kelce, we talked about him. Great game as well. So let's go ahead and talk about some of our favorite guys this week by clicking the breaking news button.
Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week.
I'll tell you what. On the Twitter sphere, there is great joy. I've received
Great joy.
I'm talking numerous tweets of people like, there is a Canes popping up. So I've gotten so many Canes construction tweets. And I said, you better prepare your mouth.
You're right.
Prepare.
They're great. And now I'm distracted by food.
Sorry.
Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week. Some guys that we really like this week that can have a fantasy impact on your Week 15 matchups and your playoff matchups. For me, it's Tevin Coleman, guys.
Hey, welcome back, Tevin.
It's Tevin Coleman. I told a lot of people that I felt pretty good about Coleman this week. If you wanted to start him, look, there's only so much to go around without Julio Jones, but Coleman's an integral part. And look, Mike was facing Devonta Freeman, one of the poopers of the week. They gave the ball to Tevin Coleman. We just saw what Bilal Powell did to San Francisco. He ran hard and he ran well. And that's what Tevin Coleman can do.
Seen what everyone is doing to San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, and Coleman was an early season powerhouse. So if Julio misses more time, I think it's even more reason to love Tevin Coleman in next week's matchup. But even if Julio's back, I think you have to give him consideration. I mean, this is a juicy matchup. And if there's one thing we know about the Falcons, they're scoring touchdowns. It's hard for me to see Tevin Coleman not find his way into the end zone next week against San Francisco. So he's my Raising Cane's Rising Star.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that because you just mentioned my rising star.
I did?
You did.
San Francisco?
Oh, yes. Oh, play them. Play them early and often. No, it's Bilal Powell. Bilal Powell is a guy, if you remember back, if you were part of our Ultimate Draft Kit and you had that, you saw in our sleeper section, Bilal Powell was one of our sleeper selections in the draft season because he is extremely talented, and we thought, hey, Matt Forte's in a new location. He's a little older. If he can't get it done, watch out for Bilal Powell because he can. We all know he has the talent to get it done. He showed us last year. Now, we were wrong on Matt Forte. Matt Forte has been okay this year, and he's been young enough to get the job done. But this knee injury could be serious. It's looking like it's way too early to tell. If Forte's out there this week, I'm not going to be shocked. But early indications are people would be surprised if Forte plays this week. This week they play the Dolphins, and if Bilal Powell is the only guy, he will be a workhorse back. And Bilal Powell can get the job done. I know it was San Francisco, but you don't luck into 29 carries for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns plus 5 receptions for 34 yards. That's talent. And when you match talent and opportunity against the Dolphins, who are they're a middle-of-the-pack run defense, I love him. I think he's going to be the type of a waiver wire pickup like Tim Hightower was last year that can help you win a championship if Matt Forte stays out.
If you had to start, let's say Julio's out next week, Tevin Coleman or Bilal Powell.
Assuming also that Forte is out. For me, it's Bilal Powell without a doubt.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's just an opportunity.
So yeah,
I would
it's
probably
a matter of
play.
It's efficiency versus
I would play
opportunity.
Tevin Coleman.
I don't. Yeah, that's fine. I think both will be nice options.
Just red zone versus quantity. But yeah, it's both great, both great options.
And this is a first for this section. That my rising star is not a single character. It is a multi-group. It is the Atlanta Falcons DST.
What?
We talked about these guys. They thought the playoff schedule for the Falcons DST. Well, everyone's getting ready for the playoffs. You're like, oh, well, the Patriots, they have a great schedule and they're a good defense. You have the Falcons, they have a great schedule, but I don't know.
They're not a good defense.
Then they've been playing well. They've been playing well enough, and then they come out and they just smash the Rams. You think, oh well, it's the Rams. Next week we've talked about it's the 49ers. And then the Panthers. So I have confidence now. I have confidence to start the Atlanta DST next week. Maybe you've missed out on stashing the Bills against the Browns. I think the Falcons are going to be another great option here when you have Kaepernick, who's likely to turn the ball over at least once or twice. And then same with Cam Newton. I'm talking, this is a multi-week type of a situation for the Falcons. You could ride them to the championship. It's very possible.
All right, those were the Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week. Feed your holiday party with a Raising Cane's tailgate this year. Their 24-hour marinated, cooked-to-order chicken fingers will make anyone have a holly jolly holiday. Holly and jolly. And while you are there, don't forget to pick up Raising Cane's gift cards for the perfect holiday gift. Right now, buy a $25 gift card and get a $5 bonus for free. That's a Raising Cane's kind of jolly. Delicious. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Moving on from the more delicious topics, we need to get into it now, guys. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Pooped in his big boy pants.
Well, here's what I want to share with you guys.
This is what everyone's been waiting for.
Let me share some members of a special club, and they're called the Single Digit Quarterback Club. Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, Jameis Winston, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, and Phillip Rivers.
Wow. Oops. Those are some pretty good quarterbacks there, Andy.
I hope you purchased some Kleenex to mop up the tears that these guys caused this week. And I hope, honestly, if you played one, which
chances are pretty good.
Chances are pretty good. If you played one, hopefully you played against one. Because these guys let you down in a big way. I mean, the most disappointing. Who is the most disappointing for you?
The most disappointing.
I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to let the music go.
The most disappointing to me is Drew Brees. He led people to the playoffs, and this is 2 weeks in a row where he has yet to throw a touchdown.
8 quarters without a touchdown.
9.
Yeah. Come on.
9 quarters
that
without a touchdown.
That can't be true.
He threw one to Brandon Cooks, but it got called back on review.
Oh, because he dropped it. That's right.
So it wasn't a touchdown.
Well,
yes.
So Drew Brees, I mean,
really
what do you do? Yeah, I'm letting it go all the way through. You got 20 seconds left.
Jameis
Deal
Winston.
with it.
Yeah,
in the same game.
my poopiest pants of the week is Jameis Winston taking on the Saints. I got lured in.
The long play, the long stash, waiting for this week. It didn't.
Well, it worked out for Doug Martin, who the Buccaneers were crapping all over this week. Then Doug Martin goes out here, has a pretty solid game.
Didn't work out for Mike Evans.
No.
Didn't work out for Jameis Winston. Dak Prescott last night, a lot of people counted on him. Mike, you won because Dak Prescott could not deliver in League of Record.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where do you go from here? Because people want to know. I mean, let's say you survive the Drew Brees situation. Now you got to go play in Arizona.
Well, you don't. I don't think you start Drew Brees on the road in Arizona. That being said, I am looking forward to Week 16. Drew Brees at home is very different than Drew Brees on the road, and I expect that game will be high-scoring. The Jameis side as well.
Yeah.
If Drew Brees is getting it done, then Jameis is forced to throw more. So
best bounce-back candidate of this group.
Ooh, the best bounce-back.
For me, it's probably Russell Wilson at home against the Rams.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Against the Rams?
Yes, against the Rams.
Trap game.
No. I know the Rams play the Seahawks very well.
Seahawks just lost. They're coming home.
The Ram, okay. It's just
hey, I've planted my flag, and I'm going down with Russ.
Okay, because I think you're going down then.
Okay. So who's your bounce back?
My
that group.
My bounce back of this list is, I wanted to say Big Ben, but he goes on the road against the Bengals. I would say the bounce back for me would be Rivers of this group at home against Oakland. That's who I would bounce back with.
If we're talking, what's yours, Jay?
I said mine was Russell Wilson.
Did you
as
agree
well.
with that? Okay.
I did.
Running backs, there were some that did let you down. Jason said most of them didn't, but Devonta Freeman clearly 6 for 6.
Now,
that was so bizarre.
It wasn't that bizarre in the sense that what happened in that game was they got up early, the defense took over, and they didn't really need Freeman at all. I remember late into the game, it was like he had 4 carries, and that was just because they didn't need him. And so I don't expect that to be we've seen we've got a whole year to look at how they've used Freeman. They just didn't need him. They didn't give him the work. So more of the carries went Tevin Coleman's way. I don't think that that's a prescription. I think that was based on what happened. That being said, this coming week, you could see that game script happening again against, another terrible team where Tevin Coleman does take over, like you spoke about in the Rising Stars. I would still be happy to start both of those guys next week, though.
Yep. Ingram, Hightower, terrible. Just terrible. Game script was awful in that one.
No, and the Tampa Bay run defenses,
they're great.
Yeah, they're fully
great.
legit.
Devontae, Booker, Jai, and Spencer Ware let you down. Let me ask you guys this. Do you think that Thomas Rawls let people down this week?
I don't think so. Thomas Rawls,
Because the game script hurt him bad.
He might have disappointed,
I think he was 12 for 67 or something like
especially
that.
while you watched, because he was running fantastic. He looked great. Every carry, he looked like what you hope for. But then the Seahawks were down so much. I mean, they lost the game 38-10. I remember at halftime telling you, Andy, like, you don't think that the Seahawks are actually going to get blown out. I mean, they just don't finish games getting blown out, and they did. So the game took him out, but he played well, and he did enough. In our League of Record format, he was basically at about 10 points, where definitely a disappointment for what he could have done, but didn't completely poop your team.
The guy I want to talk about is RIP for fantasy, Devontae Booker. 3 for 1.
Goodbye.
He had 2 for 10.
Goodbye.
Here's the problem with Devontae Booker and the confidence that the team has in him. Justin Forsett, off the couch. He had the bag of Doritos. He's just chilling on the couch, and then Coobs calls him up, says, "Hey, I need you, my man. I need you." Comes in, fumbles on his first carry, Justin Forsett. And they still go with Justin Forsett. Kubiak goes with Justin Forsett after the fumble. This is just you can't start Booker.
This is one of those situations where Booker is done. You're right. I think you probably. I mean the schedule does not look good, right, for the Broncos coming up run wise. They're playing New England and Kansas City to finish out these next 2 weeks of playoffs. I'm not really starting Justin Forsett, even though he seems to be the guy. I think what this says is that if you're in a keeper league, make sure you go pick up C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, C.J. Anderson, meanwhile, is just laughing hysterically.
I doubt it. His team's losing. They're not going to make the playoffs.
All he cares about is fantasy. You know that, Andy.
It's funny because he's the one guy that hates fantasy so much.
It's all a ruse.
You know what? Listeners were right. We could have spoke about poopers the entire show.
Yep.
I mean, I'm looking at this wide receiver list. Did you guys hear?
I'm still scrolling.
When the quarterbacks were that bad, obviously even more wide receivers are bad.
Did you guys hear Pac-Man Jones talking about Terrell Pryor?
I heard he referred to him as garbage, I believe.
Garbage.
Listen.
Garbage.
All right, aside from Terrell, how big is it for you guys?
Garbage. I ain't talking about nothing else. I'm happy we won.
All right, cool.
Terrell Pryor, garbage.
Yeah, he had some strong opinions.
Come on now.
That was exactly accurate if you talk about fantasy production. Terrell Pryor, Mike Evans, Larry Fitzgerald disappeared.
Wow.
Nothing from Allen Robinson. Kelvin Benjamin, nothing.
Now those
DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, do I have to? I'm going to keep talking until you interrupt me.
Well, you finished
Randall
this list.
Cobb, Brandon Marshall, Mari Cooper, Jamison Crowder, Jeremy Maclin, Devontae Parker, Rashard Matthews. You might toss in Doug Baldwin.
Yeah, he was a disappointment for sure. 6 for 46.
I mean, this is a long list of names.
Yeah, so let's pick out some guys to talk about. First, if you didn't watch the Miami-Arizona game, it was full monsoon. You can't really rain much more than it was raining there. So if you're worried about
If you're going to rain, you can't rain more than that.
So if you're worried about Larry, I think that was really just the sloppy conditions. I mean, there's rain, and then there's what happened there. That was like a hurricane is right next door.
There was a hurricane throwing the ball to Terrell Pryor. And I have no confidence in Pryor moving forward after what I saw.
I don't think you can. The guy that I have now no confidence in, I mean, 0, it's done. I cannot possibly recommend that you start him, is Brandon Marshall.
Good. That's the one I want to talk about.
Brandon Marshall, look, this was a great matchup against San Francisco. Well, Bryce Petty could not get the ball to him. 3 for 33 in the best matchup imaginable. And now he goes to places not San Francisco. So you've got Miami, New England, and Buffalo the rest of the way. Brandon Marshall is droppable. You don't need him. Please tempt your opponents.
Yeah, you're dropping him?
I'm dropping, unless it's a keeper league, and even then, I mean, Brandon Marshall could retire for all we know. They don't have a quarterback.
Meanwhile, Robbie Anderson, 11 targets, 6 for 99. I mean, that's just the worst situation for fantasy players is Brandon Marshall, the seasoned vet. You know that he's elite. When he's on, he's an elite wide receiver. But opportunity is the king of fantasy football, and Robbie Anderson is getting the opportunity. Would you play Anderson over Marshall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Ugh.
I mean, Anderson is not a good player, and Marshall is great, but Marshall can't throw himself the ball.
Or can he?
No, that's well said.
Ugh.
Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, he's useless.
Yes. Yeah.
Allen Robinson's useless. I think Larry Fitzgerald's an easy bounce back. Mike Evans is an easy bounce back, although he has a tough matchup in Dallas next week. But he's Mike Evans, so I'm not worried about him.
I think Jamison Crowder is a good bounce-back candidate. I definitely think Rashard Matthews is a great bounce-back candidate. We forget he was playing Denver.
I don't forget that.
He gets the Chiefs.
I don't forget that.
Yeah, I will say this. The Chiefs are not, exactly a great matchup this next week.
Yeah. I'm holding off on Matthews, but
Yeah,
I agree about Crowder. I agree about Mike Evans, Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald should be able to turn it around in a big way at home against New Orleans.
And I would say Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree, Kansas City, in Kansas City, they were primed for that game, and neither one of those wide receivers got it done. But the next 2 weeks of your playoffs, you got San Diego and Indianapolis. Those are not defenses that frighten me, and I think one or both of those guys should have a big game the rest of the way.
Just a reminder, tomorrow's a waiver wire show, so hop on, get some insight there. I need Mike to speak to this next name. We're moving to tight ends.
Yep, good.
And this has never happened before. I don't know if you want to make an entry.
To the diary?
Yeah.
No.
You're all right.
Yeah.
Look, Jordan Reed was 1 for 10.
And so here's the deal with Jordan Reed. All information coming from Washington, coming from beat writers, people who are plugged into the team, they said, yes, he is in very noticeable amounts of pain during practice, but in practice you don't get the special sauce. You don't get the special game day sauce that makes
the injection into the muscle.
That makes owies go away.
Right.
And they said he's going to play.
Is that available for fantasy owners, by the way, that sauce?
Yeah. Well, there's a sauce that makes owies go away.
Not recommended.
Not recommended.
They said
Steaming hot fantasy tip.
They said not only is he going to play, he is going to be massively involved. The Washington, look, they're in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
They're fighting for their wild card lives. He is active. And according to Pro Football Focus,
that rule's never been broken.
He is, the Rule 86 of if Jordan Reed plays, you play him. According to Pro Football Focus, he was in for just 10 snaps. So this is what makes this so baffling is he wasn't even a decoy. They didn't have him out there just let's pull the linebacker over here with Jordan Reed.
He didn't really play.
Because he didn't play. So they activated him and then just didn't use. They wasted his active roster spot. It was perplexing.
So what do you do with him next week, Carolina?
I'll play him.
Okay.
I'm rolling down.
I'm probably going to play him.
I'm going to monitor the beat reporters because
they're a bunch of liars.
But they weren't liars of how he was doing.
The Doug Peterson Gazette.
And so I'm gonna focus more on how Jordan Reed is doing. And if Jordan Reed seems this week in practice that he is still majorly injured, as was kind of described, then I'm gonna steer clear.
Jimmy Graham just missed a 58-yard touchdown. His week reminded me a lot of Amari Cooper's, where there was one play that could have redefined the entirety of the week. It didn't go his way. Russell Wilson.
Same with Doug Baldwin.
Yeah,
both of those
play.
guys missed. Russell Wilson overthrew both guys on a long touchdown by about 2 yards.
But maybe you should introduce some hypothetical points to your league, like near misses.
So you would have Jimmy Graham and Doug Baldwin as easy bounce back guys for next week.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Ladarius Green, this was a case of 38 carries to Le'Veon Bell.
Well,
he did have an end zone target, He was 2 for 25. He has Cincinnati next week, had an end zone target. Honestly, they just didn't need to throw the ball,
Yeah.
and Ben Roethlisberger
And
was terrible.
He was not throwing it well.
This is
terrible.
what I was describing last week. When you are
He was on the road, by the way, and I told you how much I didn't like Big Ben in that game.
Yep.
When you are in the snowy conditions and the very cold in the 20s, the total points at fantasy production, I said this last week, it does not go away. The points are there, the fantasy points are there, but it shifts from the passing game to the running
To
game.
Le'Veon Bell.
I know. I told Mike last week, I was like, I have to move Le'Veon Bell up to number 1. David Johnson was, but I go, Le'Veon Bell's going to go full ham in that weather. And so that's what happened with Ladarius Green. That's what happened with Antonio Brown, with Big Ben. It just all went to the running game.
But for Ladarius Green, if you're panicking, you're saying, I'm getting rid of him. He was in for just 37% of the snaps. So, I mean, his number went way down. On those snaps, though, it just running on the field, nearly 20% market share of the targets. That's and shout out to our man late round QB who tweeted about that. But so if he's on the field, he's probably getting a target.
Yeah. I just think the game.
So I'm not scared to use him.
Did not bend. So let's move on and talk about Monday night. We can officially wipe the slate clean. Wipe. I want to know what you guys.
6-year-old.
We are 6-year-olds.
man-child.
Yes, we are. Look, there's no choice. When you wake up and you need to find a toilet flushing file, you're having a bad week. All right, the Ravens and the Patriots tonight, guys. I want to know your take on this game. Who do you think wins this game, first of all? Patriots are 6.5-point favorites.
I'm not going against the Patriots.
Me neither.
I want to pick the Ravens. I don't think I have the courage to do it, but I will take the Ravens to cover.
Yeah, I can see that. Close game, low scoring. Sounds like a little bit of boom opportunity.
If you have one of the big fantasy names in this game, so let's call them Brady, let's call it Blunt, Edelman,
Senor
Mitchell, Senor Wallace, who is the most likely to disappoint you tonight?
For me, it's Smith.
Okay.
For me, it's same position, other side of the ball, Malcolm Mitchell.
For me, it's LeGarrette Blunt with the Ravens only giving up 4 rushing touchdowns on the year. I like how I framed it not on who's going to deliver you a championship. I just said who's going to disappoint you.
We're so negative today.
No, we're trying not to be. I just flushed it away. Let's go positive. So, you guys, you think that Smith Sr. is the one that may struggle. Is there somebody in that passing game you have confidence in?
No, and it's more of just the expectations for Smith as the one for that team. I'm just saying when I factor all that stuff in, that's why I think he could be the biggest disappointment.
Who do you start running back from Baltimore?
West.
Yeah, I agree. I think West has done enough to hold on to that starting job.
He's the goal line guy. When in the timeshare, give me the goal line guy.
Is there any chance Deion Lewis breaks out tonight without Gronkowski?
Yes, there is.
With the inability to maybe run on the Ravens like you would normally with Blunt?
That's what I was going to say. With how good the Ravens defense has looked as of late, you actually need to make sure you're getting it to your most talented players. Talent is the only way to beat that defense. And so Deion Lewis has it over James White. In my opinion, I don't think that's hidden from Bill Belichick's eyes. So this is a game I could hopefully see Deion Lewis breaking out for.
You know how sometimes there are those fans that when their team's doing well, they go and they get the Super Bowl tattoo? And they do it like
to call it.
They do it early.
Yeah.
I wanted to let everybody out there know that we just added the hashtag FootClan Title 2016 T-shirt to shopballers.com.
It wasn't the Foot Clan tattoo?
No, the tattoo's not on there. You can't buy that online. You can get one, though. Please go do that. But the T-shirt's up. We do a T-shirt every year for a hashtag FootClan Title. It's up there. If you want to, the equivalent. If you want to call your shot, you want to point to the left field bleachers.
Show up to your Week 16 viewing party in your championship shirt.
If you want to do that. And then
that's how you do it like a boss.
And if you don't win, you can just wear it inside out.
You wear it with the zip up hoodie.
Yeah.
And then you just wait until you clinch and you take that hoodie off, you unzip,
go Superman,
strut around. Yeah.
All right. Good luck in tonight's game, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with a waiver wire show tomorrow and much
waiver
more.
wire show.
Very important. And Good luck this week. We'll be back with you all week long. Very excited to get you that Foot Clan title.
Yes, and check out fantasyjocks.com for your winter stuff. The promo code is footballer.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.